It's Amy Bold's sixth video. We're here because, to say nothing of the immense carbon emissions, the UN say that each year 13 billion hectares of forest area are lost due to land conversion for agricultural uses. So we want to develop open source methods that even the poorest subsistence farmers can ferment tasty, nutritious protein, ideally from nothing more than sunlight and air. I'm delighted to say that we've converted Cam to the cause, and he's now farming spirulina in Canada. I think he may just be worried that I'm making such a botch of it that he's coming in to show us what bioreactors can really do. How are you doing, Cam?
Hey, yeah, good. Thanks for having me back.
Brilliant. And what's the weather like in Waterloo today?
Cold and rainy. It's
Cold
your
and rainy.
typical November weather in Ontario.
Hmm,
Yeah.
cool. It's pretty much like that here too.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, sorry, for those of you who missed it, Cameron Davidson Pillen is founder and CEO of Bioreactor, and he helped me build my bioreactor 3 weeks ago. Of course, spirulina is not the end game. I just wanted to learn from as many mistakes as I can, and I'm making lots and lots so far with a £20 spirulina inoculum before I graduate to hydrogen oxidizing bacteria. In the meantime, spirulina can look lovely through the microscope. And last week, Joe Napper from the Open Flecture team joined me to have a look at mine. At the time, I thought what I was looking at couldn't be spirulina because it's not a spiral, and it's sort of in the name, isn't it? We then investigated further at the Open Fletcher Labs in the University of Glasgow, and here's some images that we got on a very expensive microscope there, still straight, and what we assume is an amoeba contemplating lunch. Anyway, the only spirals we could see were way too small and motile to be spirulina. So I was wondering if what I've been culturing isn't really spirulina. And I'm so grateful to Rafik for setting me straight in the comments. The other issue that I had, so sorry if you can't read that, that might be a bit too small. So he's saying that was indeed spirulina. The literature is spread on reasons why it can straighten out. Most likely it's not getting enough light. So yeah, the other issue that I had was that in my culture, well, it seemed to be sort of in free fall. And when I then started this week's culture with 10 mils of culture media and 5 mils of moderately dense spirulina that I've been cultivating in a beaker, it just dropped like this. It's an impressively straight line, I would say. I'm sure we could model that quite well. So yeah, happily dying. But then Rafiq's comment made me think that it might not be getting enough light. So I looked back to my original bioreactor culture, and yeah, well, with this one, what I'd done was just poured in some of Dina's Etsy culture and let the bioreactor on its photobioreactor defaults basically act as a sort of heater plate and stirrer, and it grew beautifully then. I then looked on at later results, and you can see here that when it was actually growing, in that small space there that it was growing, the LEDs were at 50% intensity, so 50% on the right-hand scale there. And I had then subsequently reduced them to 5% and below when I installed the spectrometer, because we were getting error messages from it, and we thought also it might be causing the spirulina to get zapped, basically. So let's see how they're doing now. So right here we've got this. An interesting thing with this, in fact, let's bring Cam back in. Where are you, Cam? Oh, in fact, we've just got a delivery coming up. So, thank you very much. Wonderful. Right, I'll get to this later. I'll put it there for now. Hot off the press, literally. So with this, you can't see my mouse, so I'm just gonna, if you can look at, maybe I might be able to get it to do a pop-up. Be nice if it would do a little value pop-up, which it sometimes does, but it's not doing it. Anyway, that little uptick there corresponds on the temperature of vials. There's a little bump that you can see after the first vertical. That corresponds exactly with the change that we had here, and then it basically started growing at the same rate that it had been dying. So that was when we increased the illumination the intensity of the photodiodes to 50%. And then
Martin, sorry,
yep.
Just so I understand, previously it was 5%, was it?
It was actually 2.5%.
2.5% to 50%, and then
Yeah.
we saw this bump in in OD.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you see it kind of plateauing at about 40 hours, which corresponds with the dip down. So that's the time when the LEDs go into their night cycle, and then you see it rising again, and that's also when there's a little dip up. So that's when the LEDs are back on. Then it goes plateau and starts to decline during the next night cycle, and then it goes up. And now I think it's I don't think its night cycle is its LEDs have gone on again yet, and I'm wondering why my mouse is refusing to do anything. Oh, that's bad news, isn't it? Right. Anyway, I think this uptick here, I think that's probably just because I tried to stay out of the studio for most of this period. I had to come in and do some recording, and then I've been here setting up this. So I think that's why it's going up again at the end, because I don't think, and in fact we can look, no, they are on. In fact, let's, if we go here, we can see that they are actually on. So it might be that uptick is just that it started on again. But I didn't think it was due to start, unless I've got the wrong time zone or something in here. That's possible. So anyway, yeah, it's looking to me like we've got basically. Oh, now the mouse is working. Hey, excellent. Right, so the other stuff that we can see in here is the spectrometer readings, and because we had so much stuff here at the start, have you got any idea what that stuff is?
It could be like reflection, like a poor reflection off like the surface of the media. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Something to investigate later for sure, though.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not signal though. It's definitely not signal. It's just noise, bad data.
Yeah. And that's actually something that a sort of feature request that Garrett made was if we could set the time period that we want to look in at this, because these wonderful automatic graphs are great when you don't have those spikes, but because I've got that spike, it's kind of hard to see what's happening here because it looks like they're flatline.
Yeah, so you kind of can, but yes, I'll make that easier, more
documented. Oh, you can. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, if we get time later, we can do that.
Sure.
So then, what I was going to go down to was my events. So, yes, it has turned on. Okay, I just totally forgotten when they turn on and when they turn off. They turn off at 9 a.m. or 9:30ish. I think there's one, yeah. And then, that's the issue. I exported some data for my slides, and then we turned on at 5:34. So that does explain why it's now rising again. Cool. Okay. Sorry, I'm having a lot of problems with this earpiece. It's kind of trying to pull my ear off.
Martin, I noticed that too. That like the past day, there hasn't seen much growth.
Yeah.
So I have my spirulina culture here now, and I was rocking 90% intensity, and I was seeing it's a pretty dense culture, and I was seeing growth. So you might be actually like
flip over to yours.
Sure. Yeah. We can show it off. Yeah. So
I'm just blown away by this, by the way. This is Cam's bioreactor, right? And I think I can go in here if I want, and
You can.
I could
You can
end your
change
experiment. I'm
things.
not going to,
Yes.
but I could do all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff in here,
Yes, you
and it's so
could. Yeah.
cool because this is
Yeah.
in Canada and I'm in Scotland.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were having brilliant growth.
Yeah, yeah. So just to give the example or to give the context of what's going on, I got spirulina from a friend. I didn't dilute it. I just put it into a bioreactor vial and threw it in. It was already a very dense culture, but I just wanted to see what would happen. And I put it in. I turned temperature on to 30°C, and I turned the LEDs on constantly. So they're not doing a day-night cycle. They're just constantly on at, I think it was 90% intensity. And yeah, we did see growth, though not a whole lot. And like we saw, we went from like normalized OD of 1 to 1.3, which is equivalent to like a 30% growth in the initial culture. You can kind of see also plateaued at 40 hours, and that was this morning my time. I turned off the LEDs, and I wanted to make sure that the culture should respond to that, and it does. It kind of like stops growing, which is what you expect to see. Because the other kind of like caveat to think about is my culture growing or is my liquid evaporating? Those are two equivalent things
Yes.
from our point of view. So, but this kind of shows that it's not evaporation. It's literally it's biological in nature, not physical. So that was cool to see, and it's still growing right now. It's still doing its thing. So yeah, one thing, Martin, for you to try next is a higher intensity than 50%, because you might be reaching that point where it needs a bit more light.
It's yeah, so it could be self-shield. I was just assuming
Yes, self-shielding.
because what we've got here is a batch culture, right? So basically, we've put in I guess is not exactly a batch culture, because if it was pure batch, it would be just everything that it's going to get is already in there and it's all sealed. But as you can see, it's got light going in, so this energy is coming in. It's got an energy source. We've also got these ports are all open to the, except now I see there's liquid in that one, so that one's not so open. But yeah, in theory, these are all open to the air, so there's a bit of mass transfers going on there. So it's able to get carbon dioxide, it's able to get light, and it's able to grow. Batch, I was expecting actually that this the curve would go on like this and basically tail off. I keep using my mouse and then realizing you can't see it, but like it would go up and then it would go into sort of death phase after a plateau, which it should do, right? Because it should run out of something.
Of what? Like I think it might take a while. The organisms are also going to respond to a lack of something. They might take a while to like totally die without some nutrient. There's still like they might. I've seen yeast kind of exist for a long time in like a plateaued state and not really die. Like they're still viable if you gave them more nutrients. So I think I wouldn't expect this to decrease in OD for a while.
Okay. But mine is decreasing in OD whenever the lights are turned off, which I find interesting because yours isn't. It's been 7 hours now and yours is still flat.
Yeah, I saw this too. Like this is an interesting phenomenon. When I was growing chlorera. No. I forget
Chlorella?
Yeah, that's it, chlorella.
Yeah.
Last summer I was growing chlorella, and we noticed that too. We noticed that when the light was on, it was growing, and then when the light was off, it would decrease a little bit, and then back up again. And it's probably an artifact of cell morphology changing. So with the lights off, the spirulina are going to maybe straighten out or get smaller or get larger, like some sort of change in their morphology, which is going to affect the OD. So yeah, it's more definitely that decrease is more apparent in your culture and less apparent in mine. Could be like the different strains we have. It could be the different media we're using. It's hard to sort of pinpoint.
And in my beaker culture, they are all clumping together a lot. So they're heading for the light, I think. So at the front of the jar, this is annoying actually because it's not in my presentation. I took a photo of it with the intention of putting it in my presentation, but it never quite got there. So I wonder? Let's see, is this going to work? Can you see that? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's like they're gathering together at the sunny side and at the edges. So I imagine it could be something like that's going on here. Basically, when it goes dark, they clump together, and then it looks. Although maybe you would expect the OTD to be noisier then, but maybe they're rising to the top away from the sensor.
There's still mixing going on even with the lights off, so that could stall any kind of clumping or any heterogeneity in the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, something's happening in mine that isn't in yours. Because
I don't think anything wrong. I think this is pretty typical.
Yeah.
Pretty typical expected behavior.
No, I was expecting it. I was actually more surprised that your guys were just hanging on.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, the next step then, I was thinking, is that we need to replace. So you're right. We could just increase the intensity of the LEDs in mine, which might get it going up. Another thing that I was thinking was it could be carbon dioxide that's limiting it.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah.
So we could aerate it or feed it carbon dioxide. Another thing that could be the issue is that it could be the nutrients from the culture media. It could be that they're just using those up. I noticed, so I couldn't see it in that picture, but we've got a sort of sediment at the bottom of our beaker culture now as well. So that could be the nutrients that, dead cells, I imagine, that are sort of dragging nutrients down with them. So what we really want to do, I think, is get this constant so that we have everything constant. We know that we've always got a certain concentration of all everything that the bugs are likely to need, and then we can play around with different things to see what's happening. Mm-hmm. And there is a big fancy word for that, isn't there?
Yes, there is. But I think I know what you're referring to.
Go for
Maybe
it.
you say it first.
Okay. So I'm thinking chemostat.
Sure. I was thinking turbidostat, but both are applicable. Yeah, both can be used here.
Yes. So chemostat is effectively static. So we used to get this wrong. We used to get confused at university. And the CSTR, which is what the bioreactor. So the bioreactor is effectively a CSTR, continuously stirred tank reactor, because it is continuously stirred, and the vial is a tank and it's a bioreactor. And then there's chemostat, and chemostat is so with a CSTR you can have batch, as we're doing, or you can have fed batch, so you're adding stuff into it occasionally. So that could be like if I was putting in carbon dioxide, etc. That could be fed batch. Or you can have continuous. In fact, that's a bad example. I guess if I was adding 5 mils of culture media every day, that would be fed batch, except it would be overfed and it'd overflow shortly. So chemostat, you keep constant, I understand, concentration. Am I remembering that right? Because it was a long time ago that I was at university.
In the ideal state, it's like a constant chemical environment. Mm. In practice, it's not. Yeah. But that's the goal, is to keep it constant.
Yeah. And then, your one turbidostat. Do you want to explain that?
Sure, yeah. So you can, like chemostat, you can kind of break it down to two words like chemical static. So turbidostat is turbidity static, and turbidity is just a fancy word for cloudiness of a liquid. And that's typically what most turbido or bioreactors do is they'll measure the cloudiness of the liquid as a proxy for the density, the cell density, and that's what bioreactor does too. So in a turbidostat, you're trying to maintain a constant cloudiness, and it does that by if the turbidity is too high, it'll add clear, fresh media and remove old media from the vial. So it'll drop the turbidity a little bit, and the culture will grow, and it'll sense it's too high again, drop, allowed to grow, and go on and on like that. So it's a nearly constant turbidity.
Hmm. Cool. So we can do all this with a bioreactor, right?
We can, yeah, yeah. We have two nice peristaltic pumps that come with the bioreactor, and these pumps are designed for adding and
Those?
removing waste, or adding media and removing waste. So, yeah, those can be included, and there's built-in software routines for automatically doing this on set schedules and with your own settings.
Brilliant. I see we're running late on time, so let's crack on and do that really quickly. So I printed all these, and to be honest, I wish I had just paid the £9 and got you to do them for me. But anyway, I think yeah, in the pack you don't have these two, but these come as a kit. But then I realised I've got a bit of a problem because I'll take these off as well. So that goes there. You got the power slot, and I realised that there is no slot for my Ethernet connection, which I need because the studio's all wired instead of wireless. So amazingly, Cam sent me this. It's still sticky. That was what my daughter brought in because it was due to finish printing at exactly 8 p.m. So I'm gonna, I presume, pop this in there. And I'm going to find that my power supply is too big to fit in the hole.
Oh no, is it? Is that
That's
really? Oh,
I'm going to try and take a knife to this hole. Or do I? No, I don't have time. I'm just going to plop it in for now. It'll be an angle. I'll fix it later, I promise.
we will fix that in our design too. We'll make that power supply a little bit bigger.
Cool. Yeah, that's the Raspberry Pi standard one, which I noticed RS Components are saying is no longer has been discontinued, which was a bit surprising.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
guessing maybe it's the Raspberry Pi 5 one that's taking over or something, if that'll power the old ones as well. So, right, what do I do with these then? 'Cause
So,
I've got a power cable.
yeah, let's see. So I'm just rethinking what you do, the assembly. Okay, so that one we will face so the two tubes face outside, like away
Okay.
from us.
Yep.
And we'll
that way.
yes, that way.
Okay.
And we'll stick it into the uppermost hole.
Okay. What do I do with
And
these leads?
the wire should kind of like go inside the groove on the right-hand side of
This groove here.
the hole. Yeah, yep.
Cool.
And push it as far down as comfortably possible. Doesn't need to be
Springy,
like
but yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. And so while you can still access it, that power cable, plug it into the PMW channel 2. So beside the stirring.
This one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Typically you do this outside of an experiment, but we're
Really?
typically, but whatever, it's fine. It's working. Okay. And that second pump, do the opposite. So reverse it. It should face you, and flip that around and put that into PMW channel 4.
Okay, Sorry, bugs. 4. There we go. Right, that's in 4.
Yep.
Cool.
Great. And I believe there were some.
Angle's even worse now. What am I doing? Oh dear. Anyway, right.
That should be okay.
Yeah, as long as the mixer doesn't fall off, we're all right. Cool.
Now there should have been some tubes that came with the pump.
Yep.
Great. Yep. Okay, so you can unravel those.
Mm-hmm.
So the barbed ends plugs into the pumps.
But they're just all the same, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all the same. Yep.
Right. I'm just thinking, should I have this on all of them? How am I going to connect these?
We'll figure it out. I think
Okay.
it should work. Yeah.
Because I've got more lure locks and more tubing, so we can do it that way.
Okay.
Right, 1, 2. Three, 4. Oh,
Great.
I've just realised Garrett's saying, "Hi there, Pyreactor docs on dosing automations for chemostats and turbidostats." Here, oh, Garrett's posted the user guide. Cool.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
That's one option, or you could just call the founder and get him to take it.
No, don't do
through it.
that.
No, don't. Okay, don't do that. No.
No, we do offer as responsive support. So yeah, feel free to contact us and we can direct you to the docs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Cool.
So this looks great. You're pretty much done. So
Cool.
the way media kind of travels, like if I'm doing this backwards. Okay, so I'm just going. So the media's gonna go from like this corner through the pump. Oh geez, through the pump
Here?
into the vial. Yep. And then
Right. So we need the media first. So let's.
yeah. Actually, before we even do that,
Shall I plug these in?
yeah. Okay, sure. If you can, yeah, attach those. Yeah.
Really should have done this first. But anyway, right, they're in.
Great. Okay.
Okay.
So
Media is there.
yeah.
I'm gonna give that another shake while you tell me what to do.
Sure. I think it's mirrored, so I'm gonna maybe sound confusing. But the top right.
Top
Tube?
right for me is that.
Yeah. Okay. Top right tube.
This one? No. This
Sorry,
one.
attach the pumps. Yeah. So
Yeah.
attach that one to any of your tubes.
One that's not submerged, I presume.
Yeah. One that's not submerged. That's right.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. And then the bottom right connect to the one that's submerged.
Okay, that's this one here.
Yep. We also kind of give more tubing than necessary, so you can trim this tubing to make it a bit shorter, yeah, which saves media as well.
Yeah.
Great. So then the top left, that's going to connect to your media bottle, so the fresh stock of media or feed.
So
And then
I drill holes in one of these. I'm just gonna rip that off, right? And
yeah, it can come right off. It's just barbed. Yeah.
cool.
And you can kind of sneak it in.
The problem I had finding a 1/8 of an inch drill bit in the UK. But anyway.
Just find a 1.65 millimeter drill bit. What's difficult about
3.5.
That's right.
Yeah.
3.5.
But we managed to find a 3.5 in the end. So
Cool.
yeah, gave up on 16th. I'm sure they do sell them in the shops somewhere. Just
Yeah.
I only started thinking about this today. Right, that's in.
Great. And then the last cable or last tube goes into a waste container. Doesn't need to be sterile. It could just be any old waste container. Depends on what you're, don't expose
so
microbes.
that one's sterile. This one is very much not, because I drilled the holes in it. There we go. Right, and I'm going to put that near the top.
Sure. Yep.
The other one is hopefully at the bottom. Yeah, seems to be. And we're in.
Great. So from this viewpoint, you can really easily see the path of how media gets into the vial. So it goes media, pump, bioreactor, waste pump, waste vial, or waste container. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So that's your mental model. That's how you want to think about connecting all your tubing.
So now I'm guessing it's software.
Sure. Yeah. Now, these pumps, there is always like a manufacturing difference. There's like variation. I mean, between the pumps. So we do recommend doing a calibration of the pump and like how long do you run the pump for versus how much media is expelled. That can probably happen offline because it's a bit of work. It requires, I think, like 5 to 8 samples per pump.
Okay.
The way it's set up now, it's pretty easy to do, but
Cool.
I would recommend doing it offline.
Sure.
We can still like test the pumps though. We can still like run them if you want, and we can see it. We can probably do a dip in the OD. We can watch a dip in the OD if you want.
Sure.
Sure. Okay, so let's go to your bioreactors page.
There we go.
Yeah.
Bioreactors. I don't know why it's being so slow.
I don't know why either. And then go to manage.
Oh, it's there. Sorry. Right. Manage. Yeah.
Dosing.
Dosing.
Actually, before this, let's go back to activities. I just want to show off and scroll down to dosing automation. So you can hit start here.
Oh, okay.
And this is where you might like select your automation and sort of set the initial parameters for that automation. So you can kind of see we have some built-in ones, but you can always add your own as well. These almost all I think require a calibration beforehand, so it'll fail or it'll like tell you do a calibration first. So we're not even going to do this. We can close this modal. I just wanted to show off how it might be done. So we'll go back to dosing tab. And we're going to scroll. Actually, well, let's just do a quick test first. Nah, forget it. We'll just do the add media. So we're going to go add media up a bit. This section here. Okay, so because these are uncalibrated, we have to be very careful. If we just left it running, it would overflow, right? So we need to kind of...
Should we remove first?
Should we remove, like, run the waste or run the remove pump?
Yeah, run the waste pump.
Yeah, we can do that. Sure, yeah. Pump. Sure, let's go down to remove waste and hit run continuously.
Oh, right, okay, that sounds scary. Right, okay.
And hit start.
Okay.
And are things happening?
Yep.
Pumps are moving?
Yep,
pump is moving. Spinning. Nothing's probably coming out, I imagine.
It's there, it's green, and it's there.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool.
And it's dripping in there.
Yeah,
Can you see that?
Okay.
Yeah?
Yep.
Cool. Should I stop
So
now?
you can stop it, yeah, that's fine. That was a good demonstration.
Cool.
So that will, if you think about your vial, you have a vial that looks like this. Your waste pump is connected to the lower tubing. So it'll remove media or it'll remove the culture up until like it can't remove anymore.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah.
So that's kind of like a upper bound on how much media is ever going to be in your vial if you're doing like a chemostat or turbidostat.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just like basically probably in the vial, we're at that level now. Okay, so I think we can just like run waste continuously, and then we can start to add media in bursts to kind of demonstrate.
Okay.
So back in your UI, let's do run waste continuously.
Run continuously? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that's going.
Okay. And then also in the UI, let's do add media let's do duration 5 seconds and see what happens.
Okay. It's still coming out, actually. It's interesting.
How
Maybe
low is that?
it might be quite low, actually. So anyway, I'm just
Quite
going to
low.
start my duration now.
Yeah, sure. So, oh yeah, I see media coming
Yeah.
through. So that was 5 seconds. We can run it again to kind of.
Right,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
There it is.
It's going. Okay,
Stop
so
again.
we should feel pretty safe, just like because the waste pump is always running, we should avoid overflowing.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're kind of like doing a manual chemostat, right? If you were
Yeah.
to add 5 seconds worth of media every few minutes, you're essentially doing a chemostat.
Yeah, that's no longer coming out there. That tube's empty, so we've hit the low point. And yeah. Cool.
So that's your chemostat, or that's like your dosing
Brilliant.
kind of operations. So normally, like, you would do a calibration, and you could then set things like, okay, dose 1 milliliter of fresh media every 10 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour. It depends on how fast your culture is growing. And the software will just do that automatically.
Activities.
Yes.
In here, right? Yeah. Did it start? Yeah. Once I've calibrated it.
Yeah. You can always do this without calibrating, but it runs a risk of like, oh, how much should I add? You don't really know. It's you need that calibration curve to know the relationship.
Would turbidostat not work anyway because it's just going for a target OD?
You could set it up like that, but typically you still want to calibrate. You kind of want to know how much you've added.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, in theory, if you were to go back to your overview page, you should see a drop in OD because we've essentially diluted the culture. Now, it might be a bit noisy because we've been handling.
Because I've been shaking it. Yeah. It is going down a bit, certainly.
Was there like a...
sorry. I keep forgetting to change the pages over so you can see. Yeah. So there it is.
Oh, so less than I thought. Maybe we only added a few drops. You can add more fresh media, and
so
I'm kind of surprised there's not more noise.
This
But great.
button's not working now. Oh, there we go. Bioreactors. I think there's something up with mine, because yours, despite it being in Canada, feels a lot more responsive than mine. Do another 5. I'll do another.
Sure. I think this will be a big
back.
drop, but yeah.
Overview. Ah, there we go. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've got a big drop.
Yeah.
Cool. So now we can basically set it up. Once we've calibrated, we can get it set up so that it either puts through a certain amount each time, and then we can calculate the turnover volumes and stuff like that that we're getting, or we have it turbidostat, in which we say, for example, we want it to keep it to 0.8 optical density units, and it'll just keep it there.
Yeah, and this is like I think once you start dosing, things get really interesting in terms of like what you can do. So a lot of like researchers, they will use a turbidostat to maintain a culture in an exponential growth phase, right? They always want it to be growing. They always want it to be multiplying. So that's a trick to keep it always in like a happy state. But there's lots of like evolution going on too. Once you have a long-term culture, and with a turbidostat or a chemostat, you can kind of keep a culture going for weeks. You get some really fascinating like evolutionary dynamics. For example, in like a chemostat, it's going to evolve to be more efficient. Essentially, it's going to evolve. The microbe will evolve to grow more with less nutrients,
Okay.
because that's kind of the environment. It's in like in a chemostat. There's like a rate limiting nutrient.
Hmm.
Out of all the
Yep.
nutrients possible, one of them is rate limiting.
Yep.
It'll evolve to
To cope
do
with
more
less
with
of
less of
the
that.
rate
Yeah,
limiting one. Yeah.
yeah. Because that's just
Okay.
the way evolution's work. It's that's the pressure on the culture.
So you want to basically have your most expensive nutrient as the rate limiting one, and then they will
Sure. Yep.
evolve to require less of your most expensive nutrient.
Hmm.
Brilliant.
Um, you can also like evolve cultures to be like more dense to survive in like more dense cultures, because that's
Mm.
typically also like a limiting factor. You can evolve cultures to be more like salt tolerant or more like alcohol tolerant or antibiotic resistant, for
Mm.
example. Uh, once you have these continuous cultures, you can kind of just start playing with evolutionary space, kind of like traverse it and find new
That's
microbes.
cool. Yeah.
It's a field called directed evolution if
Yeah.
the audience is interested.
So my big question is, right, until now, I have known that before, like below 20 hours here, my bugs were unhappy because their optical density was going down. They were dying. They were sad. Then, after about 24 hours, when I increased the intensity, I could see that they're growing and they're happy.
Hmm.
Then they like the lights on. I can see that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and some weird stuff happened there. I think they basically don't like me in the studio. And then, yeah. But when we have this as a turbidostat, the bioreactor is just keeping it at a constant zero point 0.8 OD units, how do I know if they're happy or sad?
You should see. I guess like the day-night cycle kind of complicates things because that's
Mm.
going to happen in parallel to
Mm-hmm.
you dosing. Uh, but you should still see growth. You should still see like a positive growth rate. Your culture should just like be increasing in OD essentially.
So the growth rate up here, implied growth rate, that takes into account what's happening. So that's still going to be high if they're happy and low if they're sad. Is that right? Despite the
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
that the optical density, which I've been fixated on so far, will be constant, it'll be doing maths to work out that what the implied growth rate as in what it would be doing if it weren't a chemostat, if it were just batch.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the implied growth rate has a bunch of like yeah, like you said, math behind it to take into account. Like technically the OD did drop. Like we did dilute it. It did
Yeah.
drop. Um, but the implied growth rate
Oh yeah.
algorithm takes that into
Yeah.
account.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah. So that's dropped and yet that has gone up. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Excellent. Right. I could keep you here all night, I'm sure, but I don't know. What are people saying in the comments? Are there any papers published yet where the researchers have used bioreactors for their experiments? Oh, that's a good question.
Not. I haven't seen any. So not yet. We're a new product. We came out like earlier this year.
Hmm.
The paper turnaround time is on the order of years.
Yeah.
So maybe in a few years we'll start to see some, but nothing. I haven't seen anything yet.
You can try to be the first, Garrett. Cool. Right. Now, what else? There was some other stuff that I had. I have completely forgotten what it is. So let's head back here. I'll just keep you up actually for now. If spirulina is your thing, so I know that we're talking about moving on, but if you're really into spirulina, I'd recommend that you check out Rafiq's channel. He's produced a brilliant one video so far, but I think he's promised another one. It's a brilliant homemade airlift photobioreactor that he's optimizing for spirulina cultivation. So I haven't met him yet, but Rafiq, if you're watching this, do get in touch. I'd love to talk about this. Very cool. And then, as I mentioned at the start, we're hoping to move on to hydrogen oxidizing bacteria. And I needed a quick image today, and so I just grabbed this. It's just basically, I googled hydrogen oxidizing bacteria. And if you look there at the bottom left and the top right image, as I did, I was amazed because those are basically, and this is probably old news to a lot of people, but it was new for me, and I was amazed. So you've got the anode and the cathode of your electrolyzer in your solution. So basically, for these hydrogen oxygen oxidizing bacteria, you use electrolysis just in water to get hydrogen coming off, evolving from the water. What they're doing here is they're putting those electrodes into their bioreactor. So, yeah. Cam, do you reckon we could
Don't
fit...
ask me. I don't know. Well, how could you fit electrodes in? I don't know. How big are the electrodes? They're tiny, right? They're not
Yeah,
big.
we could
They're
make
low
tiny ones.
wires.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think they would fit.
So
Yeah,
I think in that experiment they're using a steel mesh for one of them and titanium oxide coated. So steel mesh for the hydrogen, titanium oxide coated for the oxygen. So yeah, if not steel mesh, we could at least fit in a steel wire.
Sure, and coil it or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could
So
do that.
we need to fit in 2 electrodes plus I think aeration for the carbon dioxide because we're going to need carbon dioxide as well. Then we're going to need a nutrient feed and the waste line exactly as we have here. So they're going to have to be in there. We're going to have one that's going to be putting in air, I think, and then we'll have 2 electrodes. That's doable, right?
Sorry.
He's researching it.
Actually, Martin, while I have you, you should turn off your waste pump just so you
Oh.
don't
Burn
forget.
it out, yeah.
Yeah. There is like a finite lifespan on peristaltic pumps. It's on the order of like hundreds of hours, but
Yeah.
don't want to forget it.
I nearly asked you about that, actually. Oh, come on, it's not clicking.
The sidebar is not opening?
Is that
what's
not
happening?
opening? Yeah.
That's weird. You're
I'm
using
gonna refresh. I'm using Chrome, yeah. I was getting really laggy stuff, and it was really bad when I didn't have... when I had all of my spectrometer things showing. It wouldn't show all the graphs. So I moved it down to only showing 2, but it's...
Okay. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not loading.
I
I'm going to
It's-
close that. I'm going to go in again.
I think there's just like a lot of data, and we don't do any like sampling of those time series, but we should.
Manage. Yeah, it has been going for quite a while now, hasn't it? So I should be in dosing. Come on. And I'm looking for a stop button. Stop. Right, okay. That stopped. Cool. So yes, now that we've done that, back to where we were. So yeah. Yeah, I think that would be very cool. So yeah, if anyone fancies discussing this, Gerrit's proposed a journal club in the forum here. So if you head to forum.amiibo.org and let him know your availability, because there's loads of papers on this. He's found a bunch extra since, in fact, I think before Gerrit? Before I found that image that rocked my world this afternoon, he had found a bunch of papers in which they were doing that, and that was kind of addressing my concern in the forum that, yeah, electrolyzing, having hydrogen around the place isn't particularly safe, it being explosive and all that. So I was actually wondering, could I just operate my bioreactor outside, which I don't think would be that great because it wasn't particularly happy before I turned the heating on in here. So yeah, basically if we have the electrodes in there and the hydrogen is being consumed immediately by the bacteria, and we have it at low enough levels so that they are basically oxidizing the hydrogen as soon as it's made, that makes it hopefully an awful lot safer. But But yeah, there's a few papers that we definitely want to read about this, and Garrett would like to organise a journal club so that we read those journals, we get together, we discuss them, we maybe even try and pull the authors in and see if we can get them to join the discussion too. So that would be cool. Please do, head to forum.amybo.org and let him know when would be a good time for you if you fancy it, and he might even post a doodle poll or something like that in there so that we can vote on the best time to do that. Just follow that discussion as well, and then you'll also, I think, get email notifications of any new stuff in there, and we can meet up and discuss this and other interesting stuff. So with that, I think we'll call it a day. I hope to be back again next week with news of how the turbidostat, well, I'll set it up as a turbidostat after this, once I've calibrated it. News of how that's running. Hopefully some more thoughts on electrobioreactors and so on. But for now, I'd like to thank Cam. Thank you very much for joining us. And I've just realised that you haven't seen any of my slides there, have you? Oh dear. That was my slide that said forum.amybo.org. I did lots of nice slides, honestly, and there was the usual thing when I get you to subscribe. Please subscribe. But anyway, for now then, thank you very much, Cam, for joining us again. And
thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Thanks for everyone for watching, and hopefully see you again next week. Together we're going to democratize food. Catch you next one. Bye then. And now, I still haven't actually worked out the point at which I need to stop the stream. I think it's now because we're both silent. Right, we'll do that.
I'm just not saying anything because
Yeah.
we might.
Sorry.